So we are here. It is day 2 of the Game Changers best-selling book boot camp. I am thrilled that you're here. If you're back from yesterday, welcome back. If you just jumped in and were like, what is this thing? I just found out about it. We are thrilled, and you'll have the replay and you can get caught up. We have a really exciting day planned. Did anyone see this? I have to start. I was not going to teach this. Something came across my feed yesterday that I want to show you. And I wonder, some of you might have seen this, and it's so interesting that this story hit while we're right here in the boot camp. So check this out. Let me pull this up first and make sure we've got visuals. Okay. All right. So do we see day 2? We've got it. All right. Beautiful. We talked yesterday. I'm just jumping right in. Okay. Are we good with that? Can we just say in the chat, are we ready? Can I just hear let's go in the chat? If you're like, I can just jump right in because we have so much to cover and I want to make sure. Okay, good. You can't see it, Jackie? All right. Is everyone seeing 5 new needs of your ideal client? Okay. So hopefully you can see it now, Jackie. All right. We talked yesterday about the 5 trends, but we're really thinking of them as needs of your ideal, whether you want to have people read your book, whether you want to have people invest with you as a coach, whether you have another kind of product or service. All right, we talked about the 5 core needs. And we talked about people are wanting us to be relational versus transactional, and authentic versus artificial, and long form versus skimming on the surface, and having a sense of the wow and the unique and unexpected, which I'm going to train you on how to do that authentically on Thursday. And that story-based marketing versus just ads are going to be so crucial this year. So we talked about all kinds of cool things. But there's a 6th thing that I wasn't going to teach, and now I have to because of this. Did anyone see this Philadelphia Eagles player? If you follow American football, we're in the playoffs getting ready for the Super Bowl. And this amazing, one of the top NFL players, he's on a Super Bowl contender team, the Philadelphia Eagles, was seen reading a book on the sidelines of the game. He's in a playoff game for the Super Bowl and he's reading a book. And so this caught the attention and it kind of went viral. And the book he was reading is called Inner Excellence. And essentially, the headline that CNN ran was yesterday, a star NFL player was seen reading a self-help book during a playoff game. It's now gone viral and skyrocketed to the top-selling book on Amazon in the last 24 hours. Okay, now, how excited is Jim Murray, by the way, right? Like Murphy, I'm sorry, Jim Murphy, the author, right? So the reason I'm sharing this is because this is an example of the 6th trend or strategy that I believe is going to be absolutely enormous this year in any kind of marketing, but certainly for any of us that are coaches, entrepreneurs, writers, and it's called user-based content. User-based content. What does that mean? This is our 6th thing that I wasn't going to do this week, but now we're doing it because this awesome story happened, right? User-based content means that instead of you running an ad for your book or even having a testimonial with someone that you helped do the thing that you do that you're writing about, it's about having real humans show the impact of your book and the work that you do in the world, like this NFL player. Like Jim Murphy didn't ask him to go do that necessarily, right? He wrote this great book that a lot of athletes love, and it helps them, not get thrown off if they have a bad game or a bad, swing or whatever it is. User-based content, okay? So when the football player's sitting there reading a book and everyone's like, what's that guy doing? Right? And he's like, I read this book all the time. I bring it with me. I've dog-eared it. I've underlined it. It helps me be a better player. It helps me be a better person. And now Jim Murphy's book is just exploded. And there were 1,000 comments to even one review from a Philadelphia Eagles, player. I mean, this guy's book is just gonna, it's just absolutely exploded into the world. So the reason I share this is because user-based content, having people read your book and share about it and show how it's impacting their lives, and this is true not just for your book, but the rest of the kind of work that you do, is so powerful because again, people have lost trust in ads. They've lost trust in AI. The minute now, the new stat yesterday was we had 96% of people don't trust regular ads, and 94% of people, the minute they know something's written by AI, are just trashing, trash, unfollow, trash, which I'm actually really excited about because I write all my own stuff. And again, we're going to use AI for research, but we're going to write our own stuff, right? So we're going to use creative intelligence, divine intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. And we're going to use AI for the things that it's really good for, automations and research and all kinds of things. So who finds this exciting? Put E in the chat if this story about a football player reading this personal growth book that now exploded, because by the way, this isn't just great for Jim Murphy's book. It's showing the power of a book. This guy is bringing this to every playoff game and saying, this is the thing. This is the secret to my success. And that could be your book for your person, right? So I think this is really exciting user-based content. I'm going to teach you more about how to do this. Those of you in Thought Leader Academy, I'm going to do a whole training on these 6 strategies, not 5. We're going to do our whole training this quarter, and I'm going to break down exactly how to deep, because we don't have time to do it all in the boot camp. Okay. So just those of you training with us, we're going to go through all of these and develop our strategies for them. Okay. So what are we doing today? We looked at the 5 needs of people in the world in 2025. And now we're looking at, okay, what's my best-selling book idea? What's the idea I really want to take forward that hits those 3 points in the Venn diagram? And I promised you today that what we would do is, again, remind ourselves of our book outcomes, right? And we're going to look at how to start putting this book together. What's going to go in this book? We're going to start by what kind of book are you writing? But before we do that, I got so excited about the book story that I didn't ask, who did some homework last night? Okay. I want to hear in the chat, put A for action if you worked on your Venn diagram or you played with the prompts in the workbook to get more clear on your which idea of many, those of you that had multiple ideas, or you thought about that urgency piece of the Venn diagram, like what's relevant and urgent now about your topic. Some of you are working on editing. Okay, I love this. Look at these action takers in here. Excellent. That's awesome. And our team just posted the workbook again if you need it, and we'll always email it out every day again to you. All right. So who feels excited about your book idea? Okay. You feel like you've got an idea and you're excited to move it forward today. E in the chat if you feel excited. You took some action and now you're excited. Okay. Yes. Okay. Amazing. So what we want to do now is figure out your book category. Like, what kind of book is it that you're going to write? And I want you to just listen as I roll through these. I'll go through them relatively quickly, and you can just see which one feels exciting to you. All right. When you think about the book you're writing and who it's for, and I'm going to help you discern which type of book you're writing, which type of book is best for the book outcomes that you chose. And then we're going to move forward into how to start mapping your content. And Karen, it was your birthday yesterday? Well, let's go. I love it. That's awesome. Happy birthday. That's great. All right. So you might want to do a memoir. A memoir, as you may be familiar, is a true story. It's your story about a particular adventure you've had in your life, an experience you've had in your life that moves your reader to new insights, realizations, and actions. If you've read Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert or Untamed by Glennon Doyle. One of our Thought Leader Academy clients, Diane Wilson, had a traumatic brain injury and it changed the course. She left a career that she'd had for a long time. She decided to become a neuroscientist and do neurofeedback with people. And she wanted to share her story in a memoir. And that brought her to be able to lecture at Harvard and launch an award-winning podcast and win awards with this book. And so you may want to tell your personal story as a way to educate and inspire. If that's your number one book outcome, memoir is a great genre for you. Okay. If you want some of those other book outcomes, keep listening for the different options. All right. You may want to do a personal growth book, right? this is going to weave in your story, but you're also going to teach something. You're going to coach people. You're going to give them some transformation by guiding them through some sort of journey or process. Okay, so personal growth. We've probably read lots of these books. And we've had lots of our Thought Leader Academy authors write personal growth books. Diana Matuzarak wrote a book about helping young women in and just out of college reclaim their attention from body obsession and to create an incredible first, quarter of their life. Letty Sullivan, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, felt absolutely clear that she needed to serve her community, bring us all together in the Chicago area, and give people something to heal something that's inconceivably unhealable, right? It seems like it's unhealable, and she wanted to support people for actually coaching and guiding them. Some of you might be wanting to use fiction to change the way people think, to bring new ideas to the marketplace, right? You might want to use a novel. And if you have read any of the books here on the screen or explored fiction, we know that fiction can change the course of culture and change minds just as much as nonfiction, right? So some of our clients have been really passionate about wanting to put their methodology and their ideas in a story. So Amy Peel, one of our Thought Leader Academy members, had worked in transplant medicine for many years, ran the biggest transplant program in the country, and she realized she wanted to write medical thrillers, but that also helped raise awareness for transplant medicine, right? Christy Booker is a health coach, and she was like, I really want to tell a story about someone who works with a health coach instead of just directly kind of coaching someone in my book. And this is now, we've seen the rise of what's called the business fable. Books like what was the one last year that was really big that I couldn't stand? I'll think of it in a second. That's why it's out of my mind. But certainly books like Get a Grip, which is Gino Wickman's system. He wrote it into a novel. Energy Leadership is a business fable. So there are many books in this category, and as well as just straight up novels. Okay. You might want to do what I call a thought leader book. This is a genre I've made up, but I think of this, it's a personal growth book, but the difference in a thought leader book to me is that you're bringing a new concept to the cultural conversation. I'm guessing if I didn't put the cover of Malcolm Gladwell's book here and I just wrote the words, the tipping point, in the chat, how many of you put me if you would have realized that that was a Malcolm Gladwell book? If I said, who wrote The Tipping Point, right? Many of us heard that whole 10,000 hours and the tipping point became a phrase, right? The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I always think of the idea that, Marie Kondo's book, the Japanese art of tidying, right? Sparking joy. Her name became a verb. I'm going to Kondoize my closet this weekend. I'm going to, does it spark joy, right? These books create movements. They create new cultural conversation using an idea or a term that we develop into our zeitgeist, right? So that's a thought leader book. So I just got a message. It's so funny. Inger here on the left. Inger realized she was the only woman of color working at Northwestern's psychology department. And she knew this was just a huge barrier to women in her community seeking help that they deserved. And she said, this is not okay, right? So she wrote a thought leader piece as an article and then bridged that out and helped her get a book deal. And she published that book and is now on book number 2. So she's like, I'm pregnant again with a book, right? And Susan Goodell, one of our first Thought Leader Academy members, she had been an economics writer for many, many years, writing for top econ journals, and she loves astrology. And so she blended these together and brought the idea of investing through astrology into, especially in the commodities market, into this book, right? So you might do a thought leader book. Okay. This is a subgenre that I created. Genre just means category, right? The high converting thought leader book. This is where you are taking the personal growth meets thought leader, and you are also creating an interactive experience in your book through all the ways I'm going to show you how to do on Friday. Okay. This is the most valuable, I believe, framework or type of book if you were an all of the above on the book outcomes. If you want to get paid to speak, if you want to generate new clients through your book, if you want to have the opportunity to serve people in other retreats, programs, products, courses, services. The High Converting Thought Leader book is a blend of some of these genres, but you are not just leaving things to chance for people to, figure out what you do. You are creating an experience that someone goes from a reader to being in relationship with you. And again, I'm going to show you the whole methodology and strategy for this on Friday when we do monetize your book. But just to know this is a combination of personal growth, thought leader, and does have an element of interactivity. So this is the type of book I'm most excited about. HC stands for high converting, Elizabeth. Great question. High converting. High converting to what? High converting to people following you, joining your email list, investing with you as a coach or a guide or a teacher or a resource, even buying your book, right? So these books are reverse engineered with specific moves, and books like The 5-Second Rule, where Mel Robbins gives you 30 days of emails when you become interactive with her through the book. The Passion Test and Profit First let you take an assessment to find out how you're doing. So there's lots of ways to do this, and I'll again be training on that on Friday. All right. You might have a practice already. You're a chiropractor, a lawyer, a doctor. You have some sort of practice, and you could put your practice into a book. So Lisa Fraley is a business attorney that specializes in helping women, and she wanted to put her unique methodology of how she makes law fun and accessible, and she even matched the legal steps up through the chakras and put that into her book. If you're a coach and you have a coaching program and you have 12 weeks in that coaching program, you can turn your 12-week program into a book. And when you're taking your practice or your program or something you've already created, a course, into a book, you are going to write that book very, very quickly because you already live, work, and breathe and have developed the methodology. If you don't already have a course, program, book, methodology, then that's what you get to create. So you can do the book first and then make it, or you can do the product first and then create the book out of it. All right. You can turn, if you're already a speaker, you can turn your talk into a book. Brian Tracy did this brilliantly. He was asked to speak on how to become a self-made millionaire. And he realized, well, I'm really embarrassed because I'm like living out of my car. I'm not the one to do this. So he was very transparent and said, well, I really don't know, but I want to find out. And so he went and interviewed a bunch of self-made millionaires and looked for what they all did in common. And he started giving this talk, how to become a self-made millionaire. And then he created that into a book that became a New York Times bestseller. Right? So you could turn a talk. So Simona Spark was one of our clients, and English was her third language. And she just didn't feel comfortable writing a book yet, but she felt like she could make a difference speaking. So we helped her book stages, get on TEDx. And then she felt so empowered in her message that she drew that talk out, added stories and different ideas, and then made that into a #1 bestseller. You could do a collaborative book. You could write a chapter on a topic and then invite 5, 7, 10 other amazing leaders to write a chapter on that topic. And then you don't need to write a whole book, right? So I just want to give you a whole bunch of options here of ways that your book could come into the world. And this is also powerful if you want to include more voices in your book than your own, right? Megan she called me in February and she wanted a book by June that would be a #1 bestseller and in her hands printed for an event that she was hosting. And I thought, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we decided, all right, you're going to give your collaborators 2 weeks. Everyone has to write their content in 2 weeks. And we had to get this into publication. She had that #1 bestseller in her hand for her event and, scaled her business, right? You could do an interview series into a book. So instead of asking people to write a whole chapter, Tim Ferriss is my favorite on this. He wrote 1.5 pages for Tribe of Mentors and then interviewed 100 thought leaders on specific interview questions that he craved to know and his readers craved to know. Became a New York Times bestseller. He wrote 1.5 pages. So you do not have to sit down and toil if you don't want to, right? Perry Grossman, one of our clients, got really sick with COVID at the beginning of the pandemic, was hospitalized, really scary stuff. And she said, she said the one thing that healed her was reading stories of transformation. She's like, I want to do a book of people who have reinvented themselves after the age of 45, but I don't have energy. I'm really wiped. She had long haul COVID. And so she did an interview book, bestseller, right? So there are ways, if you're busy and you're worried about the time, I'm going to teach you my time strategies on it's a Thursday. Thursday, we're doing time strategies. But yeah, Elizabeth, you could turn your workshop into a book. Absolutely. You could do a question book, okay? These are becoming more popular now. You can make a list of every question that you've been asked. This is if you already have a business or product or program. And you can go back and list every question that you get asked over and over on social media or in sales calls or on workshops that you teach or with your clients. And you create a book where every chapter, you can write mini chapters, is an answer to one of those deep questions about a result that someone has, that someone wants to get with you. So these are really exciting for people because it's so much like, these are the questions I have. How are you in my brain? Right. And it's also a way that you could do a book quickly, right? If you want to, if you feel overwhelmed at the idea of writing and writing and writing pages, this is going to be very efficient. You can sit there and say, what are the questions I always get asked, or the questions I had before I went on this journey that you've been on? And I'm going to make the book the answer to the questions. All right. So that's just another idea. You can even go, if you don't know the questions and you're starting something new, you can go to ChatGPT and say, what are the most commonly searched questions on Google, YouTube, Instagram about fill in your topic? And it will feed you the questions that everyone's asking, right? So many cool ways that we can identify these. So I know we ran through those quickly, but I want to, before we get into mapping the book and how to start figuring out your content, which of these types of books is really speaking to you? Just take a minute. You can either close your eyes and breathe, or you can journal and just feel into the type of book that's really feels most suited to what you're going to write. All right. And then put it in the chat when you have an idea of which one would be ideal for you. All right. So we've got thought leader, high converting thought leader, high converting thought leader. Several could apply, Deborah. Yes. And if you're not sure, if you're coming to VIP today, I'll help you get clear. Or you can book a time with Marietta and you can have a one-on-one conversation about this. We'll share the link and you can talk to our team and go through and think, oh, I'm not sure between these two, or how would I apply this? Okay, so Sue, podcast to book, quick question book combined with coaching program, Michelle, coaching book. Dawn's writing fiction, awesome. Memoir and beyond, Angela. Yep, fourth draft of your literary memoir, Elizabeth. I love it. My first book was literary memoir. Awesome. Yep, thought leader or personal growth book, question book is a good idea, Gina. Yeah, that's resonating with you. Beautiful. I love seeing these books. Yes. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Okay, great job. Great job. Now, we got personal growth with your story, Luma. Yes, yes. And all of these are going to have story, right? Every single version of all these books are going to be very story driven. We're going to work on the craft of writing on Thursday, how to make the stories vibrant and come alive and have your reader wanting to turn the pages. All right. Now, the scary question. Great. I have an idea. I know my category, or I have an idea of what my category is going to be. What goes in it? You want to make the Home Alone face like that, right? All right. So what's going in this book? All right. So I don't like using the word outline because it reminds me of writing like 5-part essays in school. And I didn't like love academic writing the way I love creative writing. So I call it a book map. Put map in the chat if you like the idea of calling it a map. Like you're going to have a map of your book. Now, if you love the word outline and that feels exciting to you, hell yeah, own that. Like, yes, outline, right? All right, so we're going to map your book next. You're going to start this. I'm going to show you how I like to map books, and then you're going to work on a book map. Yep, you guessed it, today. All right, awesome. I want to teach you the secret book framework, and I'll share why I created this. For many, many years, I wanted to be a writer and I didn't do any writing because I just couldn't get over all of the resistance and fears and imposter syndrome and time and money and all the different things, these obstacles. Okay. So I don't know if anyone's been like me. You've wanted to write for a long time and haven't been able to bring it to fruition. Well, that was me. And then I actually did start writing, but it was so slow. Like I would see people putting out a book a year and I would feel filled with like admiration and like insane envy because how were they doing this? How were these people who had full lives cranking out a book every year? And I just couldn't understand how they did it. And I was avoiding writing because, that's what I used to do. And I had this moment where I just said, I've got to figure out a way for this to be different. It was taking me like 3 years to try to do a book. And I felt like there's more I want to share with the world. Like I want to be prolific, right? Put P in the chat if anyone else feels this calling. Like it's not even just one book. It's like it's your book and your course, and you feel a calling to contribute something. Like there's a prolificness that's calling you. Okay, I figured that this group would have this too. So I felt this deep calling about like being prolific, and I could not figure out the pace I was going was never going to get me there. So I did what anyone, what we do. I procrastinated, but I did a round of productive procrastination. What I chose to do is reverse engineer 100 New York Times best-selling books. Now, in this case, I focused on nonfiction because that was what I was going to write next. And I looked at what they all did. I was like, I want to figure out why these books that I love, I picked ones that I love that were also New York Times bestsellers, and I wanted to figure out what every one of them does because success leaves clues. And so I figured out that they did three things. And I put that into a framework that I'm going to teach you right now. And what I can tell you is that because I now have this framework, I went from it taking 3 years to write a book to being able, the fastest I've ever done is 6 weeks. And the longest it's taken me since using this framework is 6 months. So this was a huge difference, absolutely huge difference. And I mean, we're doing game changers this week. So I hope that this will bring something to you. Okay. Does anyone else feel like they are glacial? Put G in the chat if you feel like your pace is not up to where you want it to be. You would like to be able to write books faster, publish faster, not in shortcutting the quality, but like just to get your, work out in the world. Okay. Yeah, Grant, I know you have publishing questions. That's really something we're focusing on writing the book this week. So if you're able to come to the VIP room, I can answer that, or I'll find out a way to get you some other trainings because we're getting the books going here this week, but I would be happy to answer those and anybody else that has questions. All right. I hope it's going to be easy to remember this because it's based on 3 letters, SSS. So you'd be like Sarah in the bootcamp, SSS. All right. No, Grant, it's a perfect question, and I'm totally going to hook you up. We'll find a way to get it to you. All right, SSS framework. All right. The first S in this framework is your story. If any of you have ever like read, superhero stuff, I haven't seen the Marvel movies. I'm not a big superhero person, but I do know the Batman story. I know a couple of the stories, and we know that Batman's parents were killed behind the movie theater in Gotham City, and he grew up to be a stand for protecting the citizens of Gotham City from crime, right? So his origin story was this trauma of his parents' murder, and that led him to do the work he was doing in the world. All right. So he was a thought leader of sorts, right? Every one of you has an origin story that shaped why you are here working on what you're working on. It has shaped what it is that you are called to give to the world. Now, you might have been shaped through a trauma like Batman. You might have been shaped through a revelation, like you suddenly just like saw this other way that things could be done. You might have been shaped through, an adventure that you went on. Like there's lots of ways that our origin story starts. But I want you to ask yourself now and put O in the chat if you see a connection between some experience you've had in your life and what you're going to write your book about, the work that you're doing in the world. Mm-hmm. It would be very, very surprising if there wasn't a connection, right? So the thing is that people they want to know that. Why? Because remember what your readers need. What do people need this year? Relationship, authenticity. They need trust. They need realness. They need connection. And so when you share your story of why you're here writing this book, doing what you do, that drops people out of their head where there's skepticism and resistance into their hearts. They connect with you. They want to know you've learned something that they want to learn or been somewhere that they want to go, whether that's literal places or metaphorical, right? And this is also the place to share the cool stuff you've done around your topic, right? Like Diane Wilson, who I mentioned earlier, she didn't want to put in her story that she'd presented at Harvard and the awards that she'd won. But we all said, Diane, if someone's going to teach me about my brain, I'm going to be even more interested in listening because they presented Harvard, right? Would anyone else feel the same? It's like, I would like to know that if someone's teaching me about brain science, right? I mean, that's inspiring. So this is not the time to like, oh, it's bragging. It's not bragging. It's making a connection. It's making a connection, right? And I use this story all the time, but what really locked this in for me was a whitewater rafting trip I did with my family, where we were in Colorado and we were getting ready to go whitewater rafting, and the guide came in, and I think his name was Jake, and Jake came in and he was wearing like, Levi's and a flannel shirt, work boots, and he had a little 5 o'clock shadow. He was very soft spoken, and he just looked like he lived in the woods, and he said, look, um, I've lived here since I was born. At 5, my dad had me out on that river. And even though whitewater rafting can be dangerous, I've never lost anybody, never even had an injury. I know every turn, crevice, rock, and we're going to have a great time today. I'm going to keep you guys safe. Okay. If Jake just walked in and was, just walked in and said, hey dudes, hey bro, as my 13-year-old likes to say, like, dude, this whitewater rafting thing sounds awesome. Never done it. Don't know anything about it, but like, should we go? It's gonna be sick. Like, I'm not getting in that boat, right? Like, you're not getting in the boat, but we're getting in the boat with Jake. Like, let's go, Jake. I'll take the ride all day long. So this is your invitation to get in the boat, your story, what you've done, what you know. Okay, so put S1 for the first S if this makes sense. You feel like, I get it. Like, I understand that this would be important to share the why behind why I'm writing this and why I'm connecting. And a lot of times people, we feel bored by our own story. Does anyone have that? You're like, oh yeah, 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 you have expert fatigue, but it's really important for your reader. Yeah, really important. Okay, ready for number 2? Second S? Okay. This is called what I call the situation. It's also the stakes. All right. This is where you're going to zoom out from your own personal story and experience and say, hey, by the way, I'm not just some unique, you know, island of one. This is what's going on in the world around my topic of expertise, whether this is what's going on in the world around parenting or nutrition or business building or finances or climate change. And you're going to zoom out and you're going to think a little bit like a journalist. And this is where, again, your AI is going to be your friend. So I'm going to write your book for you, but you're going to zoom out and you're going to say, I'm going to get some awesome statistics like we talked about yesterday. I'm going to get some facts. I'm going to help people see, hey, it's not just me that had this challenge or, wanted this thing. This is what's going on in the world. And you're letting people know with a little bit of tough love, what's at stake if they maybe don't find a solution to this or take this adventure. What's at stake if they don't go on the journey and get in the boat. Yeah, Ingrid, what I said yesterday is I like to ask the AI, I said, please give me the most compelling, exciting, or inspirational statistics, peer-reviewed studies, and news stories or articles on, and then I fill in my topic. And that way you'll get this whole beautiful list of great research. And I say, and please give me sources and links. So that just gives you this beautiful, beautiful body of research. Okay. So we got to know the situation. And this is where you're going to look for an astonishing fact, right? 94% of women say they hate their body. People decide if they're buying a house in 9 seconds after entering the property, which was what I used for one of our realtor clients, right? And you could, so this is we wanted to let people know. Also, Brene Brown says the most important words in any language are you are not alone. You are not alone. And when someone realizes they read your story and they realize they're not alone, and then you zoom out and say, hey, guess what? Like, you're not a loser. Nothing's wrong with you because you can't figure out whatever it is with food or finances or relationships or whatever it is that you're writing about. Okay. Now, if you're writing a novel or you're writing a memoir, you're going to use a different book map. And I have those in the workbook for you. Okay. And you can come to VIP and I can share with you or meet with Marietta. But this is for any of the high converting thought leader groups, books, personal growth books, all that kind of thing. Right. So the situation and the stakes. And Agela, you could just go to free chat GPT and use the free AI tool there, or Perplexity. There's Jasper, there's a bunch of them. All right. Put S2 in the chat if this makes sense, right? We've got to let people know the stakes and the situation so they're inspired to change. All right. Now, the rest of your book, or you can use this to write a talk or make a video. You can use this for any kind of content. You can use SSS. Karen, you asked, can I use this in someone else's book? Hell yeah. I use this to create content all the time. No one will know you're using a framework. You'll just know that you are absolutely going to ensure that you make a real relational connection and you give value. All right. The rest of your work, the rest of your book is the solution. You've got your story, you've got the stakes and situation, and then thank God you give them the solution, right? This is your 12-step coaching program, or your 7 pillars, or your 6-figure blueprint, or your 7 top parenting strategies, whatever it is. And if you don't have a framework yet, meet with Marietta, come to VIP, and we'll help you work on that, right? Those of you in Thought Leader Academy, we work on these all the time. All right. This is your solution. Okay. So put S3 in the chat if this makes sense. This is where you're going to solve the problem, help them. What did we learn yesterday in the Venn diagram? Overcome a challenge or achieve a dream, right? You're going to give them the transformation. We want to make sure we're writing, not here in our community, not just inspirational books, but transformational books. And that comes by bringing some sort of solution. Again, even in fiction, the solution is I get to get a break from my life and the news, and I get to go into this other world. Right? Okay. So what I want to do is give us a few minutes now to work on your SSS, or if you're writing a novel or memoir, I want you to go to the workbook and go to the section on book mapping and look at some of the other types of outlines and maps that you might want to consider. We have the hero's journey, the shero's journey. There's other formats that you can use, okay? But for now, I want everybody to we're going to I'm going to check in at the 3-minute mark, okay? Jill, maybe if you could put on let's put on some jazz, okay? Just get some ideas going, and let's everyone work. We're going to check in for 3 minutes. Just start to get ideas going about either your SSS or use the workbook to find another one that you want. Okay. Grant says, let's put on some Springsteen. There we go. Put on the boss, Grant. I love it. I love it. All right. Paulette, the workbook link is in the chat. And if you're unable to get it there, message Jill on the success team. And then we did email it to all of you, but we could re-email it. Okay, let's go. Ready, set. I'm starting the timer. Let's go generate some ideas. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Come on back. Who was able to just get even one glimmer of an idea? Put I for idea. If you were able to get just even a glimmer of an idea going here, like I can kind of see how this could start to come together. I can imagine if you're using SSS or one of the other maps. Okay, awesome. That's awesome. I know a lot of people have AI questions, and I'll be doing lots of coaching and Q&A in the VIP room right after this, those of you that are in there, and I'll answer any that we can before we end. Yes, you mapped out your workshop into the book idea, Elizabeth. That's amazing. Christy, you were asking, is this a thing to do for each section of the book? No, Christy, that I would use, there's another framework called the STAYS framework that I would use there. If we have time this week, I'll teach it. Those of you in Thought Leader Academy, you have that in the modules. But this really I think of as the bigger picture of a piece of content. And then within the individual chapters, I use a little bit of a different framework. So hopefully we'll have time to do that. Some of you created a series. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. That's so good. Johnny, you asked if this is common themes from reverse. Yeah, what I did is I looked at 100 New York Times bestsellers, and I reverse engineered the 100 New York Times bestselling nonfiction books that I also loved. And I looked at what they all did. What did they all do? They didn't call it SSS. I just made that up so that I could easily remember it and teach it. But they all did some form of sharing their story, looking at the situation that's going on about what they were training and teaching on, and then they gave some kind of solution or guidance or took people on a journey around that. So that's how I kind of created that framework. Christy, it stays, STAYS. Yeah. Okay. And Becky, you can make it, your story might be 3 pages or 25 pages, right? It could be a range. It always goes back to what serves the reader for me. What will give the reader the transformation you want to give them? If you've got a longer story that's really important to share, then we want to give it more time. If you're kind of like, hey, this is the kind of basics of why I'm doing what I'm doing, I want to get into it and teach this to you. It kind of depends on the topic of the book too. If you've got a really deep personal journey, a little different than we had someone come in who's a college application consultant. She wanted to do a short part of her story. It's like, here's why I care. Here's how this is, so important to me, and here's why I'm writing it. Let's get to it. Versus like, if you really want to show your journey a little bit more in depth so that someone can have that deeper identification experience, right? Personal growth books, Jessica, I would use the SSS. I would use the SSS framework for thought leader books, personal growth books. It will work for all of those type of books, just not novels and memoirs. Those need to be plotted differently. Okay. Okay, awesome. I love this. Tom is saying you're a specialist in knowing your energy color. How fun. That's going to be an awesome. Oh, I love hearing about these books. Okay, I love it, love it, love it. All right. So I want to give everyone a really quick technique, and I can share more about this on Thursday when we do craft. But I want to give you a quick technique. All right. So what can feel intimidating, even when we have a map, is the blank page. Put BP if that feels intimidating. We're just staring at a Google Doc or a Word screen, and you're just like, oh, the blank page, right? So what I want to do is take away the blank page. And I'm going to teach you a lot more on that on Thursday, and I'll teach it in the VIP room. But what I want you to know for tonight, because it'll help you do your homework, is to do a technique I call story banking. And story banking is simply where you open up a file on your phone or a notebook, and instead of starting to write your actual book, like thinking with all that pressure of, oh, this is the book and it has to be a bestseller and all this, you're just going to start looking at whatever framework you choose, whatever outline or map, SSS or another one in the workbook. And you're just going to start thinking of the things that you know for sure are going to go in this book. So you can just give it a little description. Like if I was wanting to share that whitewater rafting story in some way, I would just write, whitewater rafting Colorado family. And if you really want to be a super achiever, because I know you guys are, if you're doing the SSS, you can actually put which S it's going to go in. So I'd say whitewater rafting story is going to go in the situation chapter. Or I might think of an element of my personal origin story, like finding the book that saved my life in the airport. And I'd write airport bookstore, book saved life, S1. And if you're using the SSS, same thing. If you're using a different outline, you can say, catalyst, midpoint, climax, right? And if you want to join us in VIP today, so we can coach you on this, thank you, Jill. Just put the link in the chat. You can join us, okay? So this is what I want to give you is the story bank, because what happens is you will realize that you probably have a lot more of the content of your book than you even thought you did, because you're going to start to think of things that would go in the first S, the second S, or your solution chapters. And Christy, I'll help you with the stays method in the VIP room today. All right. So you're going to have content starting to be generated. And then when it's time to sit down and start actually putting it into the sections, you're not starting from a blank page. You've got a whole bank on your phone or your journal of things that are going to go in your book. So I want everyone to just test this. Like, don't take my word for it. Let's test if it's true. Let's close our eyes for a minute, or you can do a soft gaze looking forward and ask yourself, what is one thing for sure that you know is going to go in your book? It could be a story. It could be a something you're going to teach, a quote. Just think of one thing that you know for sure is going to go in your book. And if you think you're going to use the SSS framework, you can assign it S1, S2, S3. And then I want to see in the chat, put SB, story bank, if you got one thing when you closed your eyes or tuned in. You can think of at least one story or framework or teaching point or something that you are going to share in that book. All right, so Elizabeth, you got one and it's going in S2. Okay, awesome. Awesome, Michelle and Don and Ahmed. That's so great. All right. So everyone in 30 seconds that's put so far in the chat came up with something. And so your homework tonight is to finalize like which type of book you're writing. If you're not sure, book a session with our team or come to VIP so we can help make sure you know exactly which kind of book you're writing. And then I want everybody to do at least one story bank entry. Okay, decide which kind of map you're using and just do one story bank entry. If you're a super achiever, you're gonna do 10. You come up with 10 things for sure that are going in this book. Okay, so I want to know who might put 10. If you're just put the number you're going to do, you can do one story bank entry is awesome. That's a total win. If you feel like you're just on a roll and ideas are starting to come to you, then you're going to do 10. All right. Oh, Jessica's doing 20. I love it. Yeah, VIP, we meet every day right after this. Okay, it's a chance for you just to customize the training we did in here and bring your attention to it. And we'll customize what we did in the main session. And it's from 1 to 2 every day Eastern time. Yeah. All right, this is awesome. Look at all these amazing, beautiful, inspiring story banking that's going to happen. And remember, don't compare yourself to anyone else. If you're like, it's a big deal for me to even be at this boot camp and think about writing a book, and I'm going to think of one thing that's going to go in the book, okay? Now, if you're a super achiever like Grant and did the whole workbook last night, then you better get into VIP so I can give you some more homework, okay? All right. I love it. I love it. All right. I am going to invite Amanda Hinman up because I want, like we had Chris come in yesterday, Chris Williams, talk about what it feels like to get to the other side of this after you've story banked and vision. Hi, Amanda. So happy you're here.
Hi, Sarah. So glad to be here with you.
Well, I'm so excited that you're here. Amanda is the author of the best-selling book, The Thyroid and Hormone Solution. We got to have the great gift, Amanda, of getting to work with you on this book in Thought Leader Academy and in Oracle, and it came out this October, so it's still very new. You've got a newborn. You've got a new... And I'm so excited you're here because you took this journey. Like you came in and you learned framework that we did today. You figured out what. So Amanda takes your health to peak performance and next level, especially for women in hormone health. And Amanda, who I go to figure out what's going on in my body for real, not just what like a 5-minute physical at my doctor, helped me understand what's happening with my body, my nutrition, my hormones, helped me start strength training. Like Amanda, you're a game changer. You're a game changer for so many of us. I know Amy's saying Amanda's work transformed my life in 2024. So you are a thought leader in the space of functional medicine and nutrition and hormone therapy, and you're such a gift to so many of us. And now millions of people around the world can access you through the book. So do you want to share why you wrote the book? Like, I'm holding it here as my baby. I've got it with
Yeah.
me. But why did you want to write this?
I mean, just like you said, Sarah, it's to help more people have that dose of inspiration, clarity, and whatever it is to just allow them to know that there is transformation that's possible. And I have a private practice. I work with women every year, but there's only a handful of a certain amount of people that I can support and work with. So I wanted more people to have one more voice in the journey to really feel in control of their health and know that they too can feel fantastic. So I've been using the same 5-step process for years, but it was like when I connected with you was the first time I'm like, oh, I can take my program, I can take the process that I already know and have already been doing and actually put it into a book so that it can impact so many more women.
Yes. And that's like we were talking about today. Remember, if you have a methodology, you have Amanda, you've been doing this for years and helping
Yes.
the amazing, people, lucky ones of us that get to like know you. And I live in Chicago near Amanda. So we, been able to meet and everything, but now you're not limited. So do you want to share, you shared something fun that happened recently. And I just wanted remember we talked yesterday, put R for remember in the chat. If you remember that we talked yesterday about not having to wait until your book is out, until some of these book outcomes happen, and then even more doors open once the book is out. So Amanda, can you share like something? A lot of exciting things have already happened, but what
What the
happened?
hell is this?
I mean,
Oh,
a
you got
lot
to
of
unmute. There we go. Go for it.
Yeah, no, separate. I mean, so many amazing things. Really, just having this. I can't tell you how I had been, like I said, I've been doing this work and supporting women for years, but putting it all into, like, actually putting it out on paper into a book made it so much more succinct and compelling in how I speak about it and talk about it. So, I mean, I've been guests on numerous podcasts and different companies have brought me in and different lunch and learns and different speaking up opportunities have just been opened up since I am the best-selling author of the Thyroid Hormone Solution. And even in anticipation of when it was coming out, those doors were open. But I remember, Sarah, you said something to me and I was like, okay, like that'd be amazing. I don't know how realistic it is, but I'm just going for it. When you're like, there are people that can find your book that have never met you, never come across you, but they can find your book, read your information, and be so connected and drawn to you that they'll reach out, find how to connect with you on your website or whatever it is, and then become clients. And I was like, well, that seems amazing. I would love to have that happen. And I don't know how and if and it'll happen, but literally in less than 3 months. I mean, again, book came out in October. In November, we were in New York Times and getting to promote on a billboard, which was an amazing experience. And literally a woman had all of a sudden I saw an appointment come up on my calendar for a health review session. And I'm like, oh, I've never connected with her. I don't remember her, contact information. When I asked her, she's like, I literally was just searching for some answers on Google about thyroid health and your book came up. And so I knew, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to read this. And she's like, so I ordered your book right on Amazon, read your book, and she enrolled into my program, like without blinking an eye. She's like, I knew when I read your book that I had to work with you. So it's amazing to just know that that is an opportunity to have, if you're looking to impact more lives, whether it be through readership or through clients that come in the door, this is definitely a vehicle to make that happen.
I'm so excited. I know, Amanda, you were like, when I said that, you're like, we'll see, and then
Yeah,
when you messaged, I said, would you come on and share this? Because I'm so excited for this woman to get, like, she got the answer. So you guys
yeah,
remember, we're not making this up. It's a call and response. Amanda's calling to share her methodology with more people. There's this woman just days into the new year, because this just happened, who is like, I need help. This isn't going well in my health. I'm not finding what I need. And it's Google search to book to client just got to happen like that. So I'm just so thrilled. First of many, I know, this is just the beginning, but is there anything you want to say to some, because, you weren't like, love writing books. I want to be a writer. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't like on your
writer like you, Sarah, that was more intrinsic for you. I was more of like, it wasn't necessarily the easiest path. And I think it was absolutely, I know that this wouldn't have come out if it wasn't for the support of being in your program and having a writing coach and have something like literally I would meet with Hannah and she'd be like, okay, let's do the next chapter. I knew an outline, my book map was super helpful to kind of be like, okay, I know the story, the situation, and then my solution is the program. So I knew the components, but to have somebody that I had an appointment on my calendar and know that I'm going to be meeting with her and I want to give her the next chapter to review, it just moved the whole process along. And that's a whole nother journey. Like once the manuscript was finished, it was kind of like, okay, I did my part, I'm done. And I found myself kind of going back into resistance, just getting busy with life rather than looking at ways to how can I actually share this book and get it out there? Because it's one thing to have a manuscript, it's a whole nother thing to have it be impactful for people so that they actually learn about your book and read your book and can, utilize the inspiration that you share. And so that was a whole nother journey of, again, having the support, having the accountability and the mentorship and the guidance to learn how to reach out, how to connect with different people and share what it is that I can add value to and how I can support their communities and really make that outreach happen so that the speaking opportunities, the visibility opened up to support the impact.
Yes, and I mean, I want to acknowledge you because there was resistance, right? We're gonna handle
Absolutely.
that. We're gonna work on that this week at the boot camp, you guys, because there is, and it's like, I mean, you have 4 daughters, you have a really full life, you have a practice, you have a wonderful marriage. It's like there wasn't time to write a book. There's no time for any of us to do this usually, right? But you stuck with it, and then being willing to do the visibility work, right? And so I'm so grateful that every time I just want to acknowledge, every time I'd say, what if you try this? You were willing, like you did it, and then you're up on the billboard in Times Square and you're here and you're getting to serve people that you wouldn't have connected with otherwise. So I'm so happy for the world and grateful on behalf of your readers and happy for everybody here in the chat. What are you hearing in Amanda's experience that you can take away with you? We have a saying here called I am one with that. And so you can say, if you're like, I want to be sitting there on the boot camp saying, my book is out and it's a bestseller and I'm speaking and I'm attracting clients that I never met that just find me online and I'm being
And
visible.
one thing, yeah,
Yeah.
one thing, Sarah, I know you talk about this a lot, but how you infuse the neuroscience so beautifully into the process, into the writing process, into the visibility process. Like that is a critical piece because without that inner work coinciding with the outer work, it's not gonna create the impact, the results that you desire.
Yes, for me either. That's why we do it, because it's what I need. Amanda, thank you. I know you've got clients to meet with today and all kinds of good stuff. So I am so grateful that you could join us. And I'm excited everyone's here like, yes, I want to move through the resistance. I want to manifest a bestseller. We've put Amanda's link in the chat so you can check out this amazing book, whether you need it or you want to get it for an amazing woman in your life who's going to work on her hormones and her health. And it's the call and response, Jackie. That's exactly right. So Amanda, thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
So good. All right, everyone. So let's review. We're just going to switch over now to complete the main session. We'll be going to VIP in about 30 seconds for those of you joining us there. And those of you that are joining us in main session, then we will be back together at noon tomorrow. What is our homework? Our homework, we are going to look at our book maps and story bank. Whatever number of story bank entries you put in the chat that you want to do, then yeah, team, if we could put Amanda's link in there again, just so that anybody who missed it can grab that again. And if you really want to be a hyperachiever as well, you can start playing around with some of those entries in the story bank, because tomorrow I am going to teach you another new game changer that's new for 2025, and then we're going to do a strategy that's going to position you not only to stay in momentum with your book. I'm going to teach you the 3 things that it's going to take to get us from where we are now, for you to be holding that bestseller like Amanda can do now in your hand. Or I'm going to break that down, and we're going to use a Silicon Valley strategy that engineers use at the big companies in Silicon Valley to really accelerate our book success and the timeline it takes to write the book. So that's coming up tomorrow, which is going to be really exciting. And then Thursday, remember, I'm going to teach you, we're going to go on the craft of writing, how to make the writing itself, the storytelling, riveting and compelling, even if, like Amanda said, you don't identify with being a writer. And we're going to work on time strategies. So really exciting things coming up. I am fired up for you all. Put W in the chat if you're going to do something writing related, okay? You're just going to, let's anchor it one more time. Commitment, because we remember when we commit, providence moves too. And doors open where there were no doors, and all manner of magic and unforeseen things happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. All right. So you guys got this. I'll see you on VIP in a minute. Those of you joining us, everybody else, we're back here tomorrow at noon. See you then. Bye.